How does the VA disability rating work? Understanding VA disability ratings can be confusing. I work with veterans. I provide medical consulting to veterans seeking disability benefits, and I have intimate knowledge of their rating system, and it doesn't even make sense to me. Now, I understand how it works, but what I don't understand is how they came up with some of the ratings for conditions that they did. It doesn't always make sense. The VA, in their law, in the statutory law that provides disability benefits to veterans, has stated that the rating should reflect loss of function and reduced earning capacity. Now, there are many veterans out there service-connected for sleep apnea at 50%. Now, does that mean that a veteran's sleep apnea condition reduces their earning capacity by 50%? Does that mean that a veteran who works full-time for a living can only work half of what they currently work because of their sleep apnea condition? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That same veteran could be service-connected for their knee, could be extremely painful. It could cause them chronic pain, decrease their mobility, decrease their ability to be active, prevent them from having a physical job where they, if they have to do something physical because of their painful knee. To me, that should be rated at 50%. But in fact, most veterans that are being compensated for their knee, a painful knee, are rated at 10%. So you can see how this doesn't always make sense. If you're a veteran, I highly recommend that you get a VA disability rating calculator app on your phone. That way, you can punch in your own ratings and you can come up with your overall rating. Most veterans know that you don't just combine your individual ratings to get your overall rating. I have another video on VA math if you'd like to see that, to explain how VA math works. It's much easier, rather than doing it manually, to download an app. Don't forget to calculate the bilateral factor. You get extra points towards your overall rating if you have a condition on one arm and a different condition, or the same condition on the other arm, so you're more disabled because both sides of your body, both limbs, are affected. Same thing for the legs. So make sure that you add in the bilateral factor when you use the app. So let's talk about two types of ratings. There really are two types of ratings. You can generalize ratings by static. What does the VA static disability mean? Static means that it can't be changed. And I'll go over that in a second. The second kind is what we call unprotected. So there's static and there's unprotected. A static disability is a disability that's permanent in its nature. So an example of that would be a veteran who is blind and it's not going to get better. Or they've had an amputation, for instance. Or they have any chronic debilitating condition that by its nature is not expected to improve. So that's a static disability. And the beauty of a static disability is that as a veteran, you don't have to go in and have a C&P examination to evaluate if it's still at the level of disability that you're assigned. You don't have to go back for C&P examinations for a static disability. So what does an unprotected disability mean? An unprotected disability is any disability that's not static. So any condition that can change in its rating or its loss of function, any disability that can change in rating is not static. It's called unprotected. Unprotected meaning you're not guaranteed to maintain that rating throughout your life. It may change. A perfect example of an unprotected rating is mental health. Now, some veterans have severe mental health problems and they have been at the same rating for 20 years. Any rating that you've maintained for 20 years ends up being protected, static. If you have not been rated for the same mental health rating for more than 20 years, it is unprotected and the VA can call you in for a compensation and pension exam to reevaluate to assess whether or not your condition is as disabling as the rating applied to your condition. So mental health frequently goes up and down It can increase in severity and it can improve. Many veterans that have severe PTSD with therapy and treatment eventually can recover, and they don't have as severe a loss of function based on their mental health as they did initially. Those veterans, their rating will actually drop with a re-examination. Now, of course, just like mental health can get better, of course it can get worse as well. So if you get reevaluated and your mental health condition has deteriorated and you have more of a loss of function, they've had to increase your medication, or they've had to add additional medications to keep you stable and to maintain that level of functioning, that would be a worsening of your mental health condition, and you may be rated higher. So that's the difference between a static disability, which means it's not going to be reevaluated and possibly lowered, and an unprotected disability, which is one that can be reevaluated occasionally by the VA. Usually every 3 to 5 years, they will reevaluate an unprotected rating to determine if you're correctly rated and to determine if your disability has changed. Let's talk about permanent and total. Many veterans want to know, what does VA permanent and total mean? That's a very common question. A veteran who's 100% rated overall can be deemed permanent and total. And that just means that their 100% rating is determined by static disabilities. So the VA has basically said, you have 100% overall rating, and we don't consider any of your disabilities as disabilities that may improve. So we're not going to reevaluate you anymore. You have 100% permanently and totally, and we're not going to call you in for any more C&P examinations. Now, this is a huge, huge load off of many veterans' shoulders. Every veteran who's rated at 100% wants to be permanent and total. Completely understand. You don't have to be frightened of getting a letter in the mail asking you to go in for a C&P examination and another one of those evaluations. Completely understand. I've seen some claims on other websites that, oh, we can get you permanent and total designation. It's not something you can apply for. It's not something any fancy company is going to get you. You can't apply for permanent and total designation. However, at VetComp and Penn Medical Consulting, we provide the best medical evidence to maximize your ratings based on your medical disability and the medical evidence, and also help provide evidence to help you gain service connection for secondary conditions that you may medically qualify for benefits for. And by doing that, your ratings may go up to the point, and you may be service connected for conditions that are static to the point that the VA determines, you know what, you're permanent and total. Many, many of our veterans who we have helped with medical evidence that have gone to 100% have been designated permanent and total. Now, we can't promise any veteran that they will become permanent and total with our help, but I can tell you that by maximizing your benefits, getting you all of the benefits that you absolutely deserve under the law, is a good way to show the VA that, hey, my disabilities are not going to get better, my overall rating is very high, my overall point total, and the VA may say, you know what, this veteran is not going to get better, we're going to give them permanent and total, and they never have to be reevaluated. So that's how disability ratings work. Watch my other video on VA Math if you're interested in how the calculations work, or download a mobile-friendly app like VetCalc, for instance, that can help you calculate your own overall rating. Thanks for listening.
The information contained in this video is informational and not professional advice. Rely on it at your own risk and see a qualified medical or other professional to discuss individual circumstances in all cases.